Add this to the list of things that you've never really seen happen before. You have a United States Attorney General in Pam Bondi commenting on an active grand jury investigation and referring to a potential subject of that investigation as a bad actor. It's already prejudicing the underlying investigation, which, to the extent a grand jury indictment leads to something else, or a grand jury investigation leads to an indictment, will clearly be brought up. Let me tie this all together as well, because one of the issues that have been asserted by the subject of this grand jury investigation is that Pam Bondi's out there leaking and engaging in improprieties, which have never happened in grand jury proceedings before. And here she is talking about it on like social media platforms or to justthenews.com, run by some Trump lackey guy. So this is from justthenews.com, this right-wing blog. Here's what it says. The Attorney General Pam Bondi blasted ex-CIA Director John Brennan, who got recent subpoenas from a grand jury investigating his testimony for trying to get the chief federal judge in Miami to intervene in her investigation, in Bondi's investigation. Public reports of a recent letter sent to Judge Altanaga, the chief judge of the Federal District of Florida, by John Brennan's defense attorneys, seeking judicial intervention in any legitimate grand jury investigation by the executive branch, shows these bad actors are clearly concerned about their liability and want to preserve a two-tier justice system, one for them and one for everybody else. No more, Bondi said to Just the News. So as you can glean from that statement, the target of this grand jury investigation is John Brennan, the former director of the CIA. And you have Pam Bondi referring to Brennan as a bad actor and discussing grand jury investigations right now. Let's talk about what's going on, though. The DOJ has been trying to forum shop the court in Fort Pierce, Federal District Court, right around Miami in the Southern District of Florida, in order to launch a Trump vindictive prosecution against the former director of the CIA, John Brennan, because of what Donald Trump refers to as Russia, Russia, Russia. They were saying that I did Russia, Russia, Russia things. Donald, you've been speaking to Putin for like 4 hours over the past 2 days of me recording this video saying Putin says that he wants to help Ukraine. You rolled out the red carpet for Vladimir Putin in Alaska a few months back, and you made our military get on their knees for Vladimir Putin. You've said you trust Vladimir Putin more than our intelligence agencies. You're on videotape back in the first campaign you ran saying, Russia, if you're listening, find their emails. You parrot Putin talking points. So Russia, Russia, Russia is happening before our eyes right now. You've broken down the world order. And if you look at Russian media, they're like, this is what they say in Russian media. Donald Trump's talking points look just like Vladimir Putin's. But anyway, Trump wants to go after the former CIA director based on his statements about Trump, about Russia, or his investigations of Trump. So you have John Brennan hire a private law firm, Mayer Brown, that took the highly unusual step, but there's highly unusual circumstances here of writing a letter to the chief judge, Judge Altanaga, in the Southern District of Florida, who supervises all of these things, saying, look what's happening, Judge. You have Pam Bondi going around with this guy, Mike Davis. And Mike Davis is this political strategist guy. I think he thought he was going to get a big appointment in the Trump regime. He's attacked Meidas before, and he's in our comments all of the time. But he's almost operating as kind of like a shadow DOJ official, if you will. But the United States attorney for the Southern District of Florida is a guy named Jason Redding Quijones, who's a MAGA loyalist. And Trump is working with Redding Quijones and Bondi and Blanche and Mike Davis to try to get a grand jury in Fort Pierce to indict John Brennan for something to do with Russia. I could try to give you a better analysis of what the hell Trump's even talking about, but no one really knows what the hell he's mad about being linked to Russia, even though he links himself to Russia all the time before our eyes on an almost daily basis. Right now, in my opinion. And of course, I'm entitled to my First Amendment opinion speech that I give here on the MeidasTouch network. So why Fort Pierce? That's where Judge Eileen Cannon is the only judge in Fort Pierce. And the view is if you could somehow get a grand jury to indict in Fort Pierce, it goes to Cannon and the case won't get dismissed the way all these other BS indictments are getting dismissed because Judge Cannon takes her orders directly from Donald Trump, it appears. And that's what the game plan is. So Mayor Brown, big fancy white collar law firm. They're representing Brennan. They send this letter to Judge Altanaga. They lay out, look, Judge, here's what the plan is. Here's what they're doing. We're flagging it for you. Like the bottom line is that if they want to pursue legitimate criminal investigations, like they can do it, but these are really unprecedented times. And like your court apparatus is being used by the DOJ to engage in a vindictive and unlawful prosecution. And so who knows? It's not like Judge Altanaga, I think, is going to respond. Thank you, Mayor Brown. That's the name of the law firm, for sending me this letter. Like, it's an unusual step. I think it brings attention to it, Harry. I want to bring in Harry Litman from the Talking Feds YouTube channel, Talking Feds Substack, and Talking Feds podcast. I mean, a letter like this is somewhat unprecedented. Like, I would never think like a law firm sending a letter to the chief judge about a grand jury investigation. Hey, judge, we're just flagging for you. But these are unusual circumstances where the attorney general is out there making comments like the ones I read, which is part of the conduct that was being complained about before. Like they're going on Fox, they're going on Newsmax, they're trying to set us up. And really your court is being used. One more point I'll make and then I'll throw it to you. The grand jury process is handled by the DOJ and the grand jury. The judge isn't in the room when the grand jury is there. So the process requires a lot of trust that the DOJ is doing the right things and giving correct legal instructions and providing the correct facts and going about the process the right way. Because people say you can indict a ham sandwich. But what now happens when the court and the whole Southern District is basically being used as part of I hate to be hyperbolic, but I think it's accurate, like a RICO criminal cartel, and the co-conspirator is like the court. And they're saying, look, you're like being used for criminal stuff right now. Not to go after the bad guys. You're being used as the bad guy by these bad faith actors. Wow, Harry, what's going on?
It is an extraordinary letter. I'm sure they debated internally really back and forth before sending it, especially, as you say, from a white shoe firm like Mayor Brown. In normal times, the kind of, I was going to say implicit, but it's not implicit, explicit accusations in there, it would be beyond the pale to level. But they go through all that Cannon has done to really give huge advantage to, they make it out. They tell the truth. There's Trump. He wants to go after Brennan. Brennan has done nothing. And I want to come back to that in a moment. And Chief Judge, you're being used and you have the power to stop this. Now they say, if the Department of Justice will just actually convene the grand jury in Miami in the Southern District of Florida, like most others, we no longer ask for any intervention on your part, but Fort Pierce, which they're going for, equals, as you say, Eileen Cannon, equals in the tank for Donald Trump. And they're, looking at this soberly with a defendant who's really done nothing that could justify criminal charges and thinking, we've got to try to head it off now, because once it goes on the Cannon Express, man, oh man, all kinds of terrible railroading could occur to John Brennan. That's just who she is. I will add here that the scuttlebutt from before, when the chief judge went to Cannon after the national embarrassment of her flagrant mishandling of the search warrant that Trump was able to get her to derail and gum up the works in all kinds of ways. The chief judge went to her when she drew the ticket. It was, 1 out of 3 or 1 out of 6 to have the Mar-a-Lago case, and said, don't take it. And Cannon, who knows the only place where her bread is buttered and the only route to having advance in the judiciary, namely Donald Trump, turned down her chief judge and said, I'm keeping the case, and did, and dismissed it in a really tendentious, indefensible opinion that served Trump's purposes. And recall what was, if the less grievous, the more serious, open and shut case that should have gone to trial, and he should have been convicted well before. That's who she is, and they just know it. So it's, I think they are trying to take advantage of what they think is a real kind of hostility already on the chief judge's part. And also remember Jack Smith, in all the sort of postmortems, he decided to bring the Mar-a-Lago case in the Southern District of Florida and wound up with the terrible misfortune of drawing Cannon. Why is that? Because while it could have been brought in D.C. and it would have been better, the Department of Justice, in its rectitude, doesn't want to look like it's forum shopping and trying for a slight advantage. The D.C. jury would have been better, etc. Here, the exact opposite. They're not only trying, they're going to the singular place that they can, pretty much in the country, to try to put the fix in. There's no other way to put it. Finally, John Brennan and these charges. Think about it for a moment. It's 100%, 99% clear that there was all this activity by Russia involving Trump, and they had to sit down. They had to prompt tell Obama about it and decide what to do, and sit down and brief Trump. What should the FBI have done in that instance? Can you imagine? Trump is now saying it was all fictitious, and they should have what? Left it to the side that the president of one of our two biggest adversaries is trying, and it's a fact, to influence the election in favor of one candidate over another. That's not just a fact. It's a fact with really big implications for the national security of the United States. And the whole premise of now making it a crime and putting Brennan in the crosshairs is that somehow it was nefarious to look into this most grave of all charges. It's just so topsy-turvy and Orwellian, even for this crowd.
Harry, this is one of these stories that just make you say, only in a Trump regime will you have DOJ officials using social media as trolls and compromising their underlying investigations. Now we know the White House also controls the DOJ accounts, but whether it's Pam Bondi or some of these other top leaders, they're like addicted to social media, and like they got to make these posts.
Right.
And they've got to make statements to the press. It's like weird. It's like, just relax. Conduct yourself professionally, because if your goal was to go after these people, like their goal, you're undermining your goal. Like you're hurting your goal, and then you're whining that a judge got mad at you for breaking the rules when you're violating the court. So just be normal. If you want to prosecute these cases, do it the right way, and and bring the evidence and do it, and show that you have the evidence. But this constant whining is just beyond anyone.
And it's a really important general point, because they always have this political strategy. We just talked about this in the Abrego case, where Todd Blanche goes on Fox News and basically says, that we did it as a reprisal, and the judge takes notice of that. They have this political agenda. They spout it, including officials who have no business talking about it, and then they're in court, and well, I know we said that, but you should, and then they've made their bed, because one of their goals is to advance the political fortunes of Donald Trump, and to do that, you go on Fox TV, something that, as you say, it just undermines what DOJ is supposed to be trying to do. But what DOJ is supposed to be trying to do is no longer what they're really trying to do.
There you have it, everybody. Subscribe to Harry Litman's YouTube channel. It's called Talking Feds. Subscribe to his Substack, Talking Feds, and subscribe to his audio podcast. Guess what it's called? Talking Feds. Just search Talking Feds. Thanks, Harry.
Hey, thanks, Ben. Talk to you soon. Happy New Year to all you Midas Mighty.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year, everybody. Hit subscribe here. Let's get to 6 million subscribers. Thanks for watching.
New Meidas merch. Head to store.MeidasTouch.com today and get yourself the best pro-democracy gear and show your support. That's store.MeidasTouch.com.